Hello, fellow mompreneurs. Welcome to the Real Moms Podcast, the go-to space for resilient entrepreneurs who are striving for abundant living. I'm your host, Shae Spitz, a mompreneur and a realtor here in Columbus, Nebraska. Are you a mom juggling the hustle of entrepreneurship, family life, and personal growth? Well, you're in the right place. On this podcast, we dive deep into the real, unfiltered stories of incredible women who are navigating the journey of mompreneurship. We'll celebrate the victories, share practical insights, and acknowledge that it's okay to face challenges along the way. Success isn't about the destination. It's about the journey and the growth we experience as we balance our careers and the chaos of family life. Whether you're a seasoned mompreneur or just starting on this exciting path, join me and our amazing guests as we explore what it truly means to be a resilient entrepreneur striving for abundant living. Get ready for real, raw, and remarkable conversations that will inspire and uplift you. Because here at the Real Moms Podcast, we believe in the power of community, authenticity, and the strength that comes from embracing the journey together. So grab your coffee, find a cozy spot, and let's dive into the world of mompreneurship. This is the Real Moms Podcast, where we celebrate the hustle, honor the struggle, and thrive as resilient entrepreneurs living abundantly. Welcome to another episode of Real Moms Podcast. I like to start every podcast off with a motivational quote, and today's quote is, "Don't make permanent choices based on temporary feelings." Today, I am so excited to introduce Mary Katherine Stahl, also known as MK, who is a dynamic entrepreneur celebrated for her expertise in building vibrant hubs within the fitness landscape. Since 2017, she has spearheaded the launch of numerous brick-and-mortar fitness studios, cementing her status as a master franchisor for the Fit Body Bootcamp brand in South Carolina. Beyond her entrepreneurial endeavors, Mary Katherine is a captivating public speaker, passionately championing women's health and empowerment. So, MK, thank you so much for being on my podcast today.
Thank you for having me, Shae. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So, MK, tell me a little bit about your journey and how you kind of got started in the fitness industry.
Yeah, so I actually, not a very traditional route. I didn't go to college to study health or fitness or anything like that. I did communications. Out of college, I worked in real estate, actually. I was a real estate underwriter, and then I was I managed like a project manager at a construction business, and I actually really loved it, but I wasn't feeling like the company or the position that I was in, that there was really anywhere to go from there. And every day I was just so stressed out. I was sitting at a desk all day, leaving the office feeling fatigued. And I'm like, okay, there has to be more. At the same time, one of my good friends invited me to a new gym in town, Fit Body Bootcamp. And this was back in 2016. I had always been self-motivated when it came to fitness. I ran on my own, went to big box gyms, never really got into group fitness. And at first I thought, oh, this is just going to be something I try with her once and then I'll never come back. And so I said, sure, let's go. So I show up 6:15, first session. After the first session, I was hooked. It was all I could talk about. I loved the way I felt when I left there. And it wasn't just the workout, because you can get a good workout anywhere. It was the community. It was the culture. The coaches knew who I was. They knew how to push me. They were texting me when I wasn't there. And I had formed this bond with all of these people that I was working out with. And it just had become the best part of my day. And it was something that I really looked forward to. So after becoming a member and doing that for a few months, one day after another stressful day at the office, I came home to my husband and I said, I think that I want to do fitness for a living. If these people can do it, I think I can do it. I'm young. I can go back to school if I need to. I'll get the certifications, whatever it is I need to do. I think this is something that I want to pursue. And so my husband was actually a practicing physical therapist at the time. And, taking my passion for that business and then his knowledge, we were kind of able to come together and we opened up our first studio. We actually had to move because the location that I had become a member at, we couldn't open another Fit Body Bootcamp right there. So we moved an hour down the road, opened our first location, and then a few years in, we had the opportunity to purchase the one that I started as a member at, which talk about full circle.
That's amazing.
It was so cool. It was unfortunate times for that owner. It was during COVID. He owned multiple locations, but he was like, I think this is my time to get out of this industry. So he just kind of walked away and we came in and we took over that location. And then I opened another one. And now I'm a master franchisor for the state of South Carolina, where I help other people open their own Fit Body Bootcamp locations. And I serve as a back-end investor, like an angel investor, if you will. And then I also help them with operations and marketing. And so it's become like this little niche passion of mine to help other gym owners. And it really all stems back to my love for that community and the culture that you can form within a business. And that's really what I try to help people with today is it doesn't matter what business you're in. And you know this as a realtor, just having those relationships with people and the way you can make people feel just goes such a long way.
It absolutely does. I've always been I love fitness. Working out in the mornings has always been my thing. But tell me, what is the difference between Fit Body Bootcamp and maybe a typical YFCA gym? Because here in Nebraska, I don't know if I've ever heard of Fit Body Bootcamp. Obviously, it was the first time I had heard of it when I went to Amberly's conference, but it obviously seemed a pretty big deal. So I don't know if there's one in Nebraska, but what's the difference? I mean, probably more so the community, but tell me a little bit about what Fit Body Bootcamp is about.
Yeah. So it's 30-minute small group personal training sessions, and it's for all fitness levels, which is great because a lot of times what I feel today happens in the industry that I'm in is you'll have a gym that, yes, maybe they want it to be for all fitness levels, but the way they market it and the way they program their workouts, it's so extreme, it's so tough. And a new person walking in, they might attend 1 or 2 sessions and say, I can't do this. I can't sustain this. I'm never going to come back. I'm so sore. There's no way this is for me. And so at Fit Body, what we really like to do is prior to your first session, we sit down with our clients and we meet with them one-on-one and we say like, hey, what are your goals? Why do you want to come here? Is it because you want to build muscle? Is it because you want to lose weight? Or is it because you're focused on longevity for the future? Or you're focused on being able to pick up your grandchildren? I mean, we have members that are in their 80s. And then we also have a program called Fit Body Forever, which is for those older clientele where it's only a few times a week. It's a longer workout session. It's a smaller group and they get more one-on-one attention. So that's one piece. Another piece is it is a different workout every single day. And the programming is so good so that if you're someone who can only come Monday, Tuesday, Friday, you're not going to show up just on leg day or just on arm day or just on cardio day. It's almost a full body workout every single session. And of course, we love it when our clients come at least 3 to 5 times a week, but we get it. Life is crazy. And if you can just fit in those 2 times starting out, you're still going to get a really great workout. And so I think that's really what sets us apart when it comes to the workout piece. Back to the community piece, we are a smaller facility. So a YMCA or a Gold's Gym, for example, they might have 5,000 members. We might have 300 members. 300 members is like our average. I've had studios where we've had close to 500, but when you have a smaller group like that and you have, let's say, 5 to 7 coaches, we have our coaches checking in with our clients every single week. So when you're on vacation, we have it in your notes on the computer, Shae's on vacation, don't bother her. But then if she doesn't come back the next week, we're going to send you a text and be like, hey girl, where are you? And then also we try to offer that nutrition piece, which we all know is 80% of it, where a lot of gyms, they just offer the workout. We have nutrition coaches. A lot of Fit Body locations actually we have dietitians. We have a lot of different people that we employ to help with that nutrition piece, because I know many women, like we really struggle with that. We can show up for our 30 minutes, but then the other 23 and a half hours of the day, it's like, I'm just going to eat my kids' leftover breakfast and I'm going to starve myself, and they think they're going to get results and they don't. So the last thing we want is someone spending all this time in the gym and not seeing the results they want because they're missing that nutrition piece.
Yeah, I would say the nutrition piece is the biggest aspect of it all. You know, I would say it's probably 90% of what you eat, how you eat, when you eat. And when you are a mother, it is easy to just grab what your kids are eating, or you make food that your kids are going to eat and you forget to make something for yourself or make it a priority to make something for yourself. So I think having that accountability when it comes to the nutrition side is probably the most important key to the success of sustaining, losing, whatever your goal is.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So are you guys like a membership? Do they pay per time that they come and work out?
Yeah. So it's a membership based gym. So you pay every single month.
Okay.
So it's a monthly agreement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And is it like a contract? You got to be there for a year, or is it just month to month?
So we have I think we're at 260 locations now nationwide. Every location is a little bit different. Most of my locations, it's a month to month agreement. If you want to cancel, you just have to give us a 30-day notice. We don't want people to be locked into anything for too long because, again, life happens. So the last thing we want is someone saying, I have to leave. And we're like, oh, well, you have to pay this amount of money and we never want you to come back. They won't come back if we charge them that. So we want people to come back when they have to quit.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to take it back a little bit. So you kind of got into this in 2017, and I know that your oldest is 6. Mm-hmm. So you would have gotten into this right before you got pregnant or right around when you got pregnant. So what was all of that like going through, especially being a new mom?
Yeah, a whirlwind, I tell you. And so my daughter's not 6 yet, but we opened our location, and within a few months of being open, I found out I was pregnant. And I can't say like, oh, it was a surprise, it was unplanned or anything. I always wanted to have kids young. And that was always a part of my plan. And truthfully, looking back, that first business, it was manageable because I had gotten in a rhythm. I started hiring coaches to help me out. We had part-time childcare and it all worked out. It wasn't really until I had that second business and second child that I was like, oh, wow, I have got to figure out, I got to take a step back and I have to figure out how I'm going to manage all of this. And not only did I had to ask myself that question, it was more about, I had to get clear with what I wanted and what I wanted my life to look like, because I was just like full speed ahead 100% of the time from when I opened my business until that point. And I never took a break. Even after my first, I didn't take a maternity leave. Like I was at that gym a few days postpartum with my daughter on the floor, like myself trying to work out, trying to help my coaches, trying to train my clients because I didn't want to take a break and I loved it. But after I had my second location, I wanted so bad to take that maternity leave. I wanted everyone to leave me alone, to be honest. And they couldn't. I couldn't do that. And so after my son was like a year old, and this was my second location, I was working on my third location, I reached like total burnout because I was almost just angry. I was angry at myself for not figuring out a way that I could just take a break.
I think that stands true for so many people. When and why did you realize you needed to get very clear on what your life looked like and what was your consensus? Like, what do you want your life to look? And then how did you start to implement that into your daily living? Because I think that's the struggle. I think so many people struggle with, they always say, get very clear on what you want.
Right.
I still struggle with that. I don't know. I don't know what I want. Whatever God tells me to do.
So I'm going to tell you right now, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm like almost getting emotional saying this. What I wanted and what I was like really looking for is what I have right now. And I have to remind myself every day that I feel like I need to be worrying about what's next. I need to be worrying about what I'm doing. I have to remind myself, this is what you work to get to. Like, this is what you wanted, and you need to learn how to appreciate this. So let me just kind of paint the picture for our listeners. When I had my 2 businesses, so I had my second child, I had 2 locations, they were an hour apart. And we ended up moving smack dab in the middle because we were like, all right, we're going to split our time. And my husband and I, at this point, during COVID, he stepped down at his physical therapy job. He stepped down to part-time and he was helping me more. But I was the one that was in the studios and he was the one more like on the computer responding to people and things like that when we had the new lead come in. And what had happened is I had to pretty much put my kids in daycare all day long. And I was driving an hour or 30 minutes to one location and then 30 minutes to another location. I was either there at 5 a.m. or I was there until 8 p.m. So I was either missing time with my kids in the morning when they woke up, or I was there when they went to bed. I was hiring babysitters on top of the full-time childcare. I was all over the place. And if someone listening to this, I don't want anyone to think like, oh gosh, I would never want to open a gym. It was more about me feeling like I needed to be there all the time because I was the one that built this business. And we all know that's a lot of times the problem with entrepreneurs is we want to do it all ourselves until we get to that point where we don't want to do any of it because we haven't learned how to delegate. And I'll chalk some of that up to me being a young entrepreneur. But now looking back, it was like, why? Why didn't I just ask for help? Mm-hmm. And I got to this point where I just kind of had to say to myself, is this the goal? Is the goal to have this family, these beautiful children, and send them to daycare all day? And here I've built this business that's been able to build this beautiful house we live in and all these wonderful things, but also I don't enjoy it? Is this the goal? And the answer was no, it wasn't the goal. And so I had to actually teach myself to be happy with doing less, for actually wanting less, because as you know, when you outsource things, you're not going to make as much money. And so we had to be okay with that. We had to figure out how can we make money doing things from home. And so I had a few side businesses, and I still do today. My husband and I started investing in things, and that helped us out. But we had to take the risk of stepping back, or I did, stepping back, outsourcing a lot of the things that I was spending my time on physically, like physically being all of these places. And it allowed me to spend more time with my kids. And that was the goal. The goal was to create a lifestyle that I love, to have the flexibility. And here I had worked so hard to create that, but I wasn't willing to let go. And so now I'm at a point where I have stepped out of all of my locations that I owned 100% of. I've put other leaders in charge. I now am really a back-end owner for a lot of these locations. I support my team from my computer on the phone. I'm there. Like I was there at one of my locations this morning, working out, chatting for a little bit, and then back home with the kids. And this is what I want to do right now. When my kids are older and they're, more self-sufficient, everything's going to change. I know it's going to change. But right now, this is so bad what I want. And I need to just remind myself, this was the goal. Stop looking for something else right now and just stay in this. And I think a lot of moms who are entrepreneurs struggle with that is because we always are focusing on that what's next.
Yes. I mean, I don't think you could have said it any better, because my mind and I'm sure you probably still go through this too, but you want these things, you start delegating. And I tell you, the moment you start delegating, it is a game changer, but you need to realize that it is going to eat into the cost of your income, especially initially, because you're trying to train people, you're taking time away to just train people, and it's costing you more money. In the long run, it ultimately should make you more money, because if you're hiring somebody for $20 an hour, you should be able to make, $40 an hour later on. But the moment you start delegating, it is a game changer. Like I started delegating my marketing. I would say CPA is probably the number one, but that's my opinion. Finding the right CPA, bookkeeping. You obviously need to know your numbers, but just start delegating. And when you start doing that, it frees up so much more of your time. And like you said, especially when you have little kids, we want to spend that quality time with them. You don't need to spend all day, every day. It's okay to hire a babysitter. It's okay if they're at daycare, but just know that it is also okay to take time away from your business. But I do think I struggle with a lot that when I do take that time away, my mind keeps going to, okay, what do I need to do? What am I missing out on? What's my checklist? I need to get better at that. I'm still working on it. I think that's motherhood. I think that's entrepreneurship. So I think that's mompreneurs, that we're always like, what's next? What's next? What's next? It's not always about the money. It's what are we capable of doing? So sometimes we feel like when we're with our kids, we're not being productive. But like you said, we need to remind ourselves, this is truly what we want. This is life. We're not going to get this back. And we need to be more in the moment than in the future.
Yeah, definitely. And I think too, we a lot of times hear successful mom entrepreneurs say, use your kids as the reason, not the excuse. And I too have said things like that, use them as the reason why you work so hard. Use them as the reason why you work out at 5 a.m. But you can also use them as an excuse sometimes too, and that's okay. You have permission to do that. If you don't want to take the promotion because you know that you're going to be working late nights and miss out on their dance recitals, use them as the excuse and be done with it. It's okay.
Yeah.
And one day you might be able to use them as the quote unquote reason, but it's okay if that's the season of life that you're in. I have a good friend, I'll just mention this really quick, who the other day, she has 4 kids and her youngest is about to go into school next year with my son, actually. And I was like, well, now you're going to have so much more time. And she went to school to do athletic training. And she hasn't really been able to use that degree. I mean, she's been out of school for 10 plus years, but I'm like, now's the time. Like, do you want to go and use that? Do you want to go do something? And she goes, you know what? Right now, I'm really just loving being a mom. And she said, I can't believe I'm saying that, but I'm just really loving it. And I don't think I want to look for something yet. And I was like, that's okay. Good for you for understanding and knowing what you want and being comfortable communicating that. Because I think a lot of women, we feel like, I have friends who I think they try to hide behind their jobs sometimes. They so bad, like they might not even need the money, but they so bad, like don't want to do that job, but they're afraid to say, I just want to stay at home with my kids. Like they're so afraid to say that.
Yeah, there's a stigma around it to be a stay-at-home mom. And I will say, I feel like being a stay-at-home mom is a lot harder than being a mompreneur, because holy moly, I mean, mentally and emotionally and spiritually and all the above. But I love my kids, but holy moly, if I'm spending all day, every day, it would be hard. And I think you do lose a sense of identity a little bit because you are so focused on your kids. So there's definitely, but yeah, very good for her to know that. And so I put all of my kids' activities, appointments, whatever, in my calendar as an appointment. I mean, they are in my calendar because family first. So you make them the priority. And I used to tell people, like, especially in the evenings when I have kids' activities, oh, I already have another appointment at that time. Can we move it around? So I never really missed them, but I would always say I had an appointment versus family things.
Yeah.
Here recently, actually, I just caught it last night, is that, no, you know what? I shouldn't apologize, but, sorry, I'm just getting back to you now. I was at my son's baseball game. How can I help you? And like I said, I used to say appointments, but now I'm like, no, I was at my son's baseball game. And the guy was like, oh my gosh, don't worry about it. I was there many times. He's running around. So people do respect that. And you just kind of have to be confident when it comes to that and know that it's okay. You don't need to say an appointment when you have a kid's activity. It's okay.
Well, and you also don't need to say sorry. That's something that we as women do all the time. Like when someone calls you and you don't answer right away and you call them back, you're like, oh, so sorry, I missed your call. It's habitual at this point, but we're constantly apologizing for things that you don't need to apologize for. Men don't do that.
No. And I don't know why that is. That is interesting because I notice that I say sorry all the time. Yeah. Am I actually sorry? But I think it's more habit. I'm not sorry. I was on the phone. Or I was at my kid's activity. I'm not sorry. But yeah, it's something that most women do. So I want to go back. So one of your talking points, making yourself a priority as a mom. I want to touch on that because I think that is extremely crucial. Even if you're not a mompreneur or an entrepreneur, or if you're a W-2 mom, making yourself a priority, so important, because the better version of yourself that you can be, the better version of a mom and a wife you're going to be. So touch on that a little bit. What do you do to make yourself a priority?
Yeah. So for me, like, of course, it all stems from when I started this journey back, 7 years ago with fitness. Like I fell in love with the way that made me feel every day. And for me now, I have had to shift my workout schedule and stuff so many different ways and times with the kids. But one thing I really do is make sure I do have that time most every day of the week. And it's not the same time every day. A lot of times what I do, and this could be a tip for our listeners, is even when I'm home with my son, like right now, as we're recording this, it's summer and my kids are out of school. So like our schedule's all over the place. But the night before, like every night before bed, I will look at my calendar for the next day and I will do time blocking. And time blocking helps me tremendously, not only with my productivity when I do have to work, but it also helps me when I don't have anything going on. Because back to that mentality that entrepreneurs always want to be working, I always want to be busy, whether I'm working on a work project or a home project or anything. The more I have on my plate, the happier I am. I hate that I'm like that. I wish I could be the kind of like Zen, let's relax all day person, but I'm not. And I've, accepted that. But for me, like making yourself a priority, if I time block my day, I will figure out a way I can get in those 30 minutes, whether it is before the kids wake up, during the day when my husband has a break from his work, or after bedtime. Like I will figure out a way to make it happen. And something that I have learned the hard way over the years is like my husband and I, we have worked together for a while now. And many people listening to this would probably think like, wow, I would never want to work with my husband. I would butt heads with him. And we have a lot. And one thing that I learned though is when I would start to get that feeling of like resentment towards him, that he had time that I didn't have, it was often because I wasn't communicating what I needed to him. And I wasn't being direct enough and specific with, hey, I haven't gotten my workout in today. I would just like 45 minutes. If you could watch the kids or do something with them for 45 minutes, I'm going to step away. I'm going to do my workout. And I think that's so important, whether you are in a relationship with your significant other where you're working together or not, just communicating your needs to the other person that's helping you with your children is so important. And I am all for getting your kids involved when it comes to like working out, if you're doing at-home workouts, or if you're like going to the park and you're running with the stroller. I am all for that. However, you need time for yourself away from them, by yourself, away from whoever it is that you live with. You need time for just you. And it might not happen every day, but if you can factor in like 4 days a week where you have that time just for yourself, it's going to help your mental health tremendously.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, even if it's just getting up a half hour earlier. So I get up every morning. Summer, it's been a little bit later, but 4:30, like that's my time. I love it. And during the school year, about the last 2 weeks of the school year, no, probably about the last month of the school year. So I've been doing this for a long time. I get up, I work out, I read, I do prayer walks, I do all these different things. My kids were like, Mom, I want to start getting up at 5:45. I'm not joking. And they would get so mad if I didn't wake them up. So I had to start, I started waking them up at 5:45, and they had to do their reading. They had to do their workouts. And as much as I love the fact that they want to get up, I'm thinking that's my time. Like right. I get up so early to have those couple hours of me time. I'm even up an hour earlier before my husband because he works out in the mornings too, but I just love that time. So it got to be a little bit harder towards the end of the year, and I want to support them. I want them to want to get up and do things and be productive. But I'm like, all right, I need that me time. I want that me time. So I was like, okay, you guys can get up, but I'm still going to go do my things. And then they started coming on my walks with me, which is great. I love, love, love those things. I really, truly do. But yeah, we need that time to ourselves. And time blocking is so crucial. So my sponsor with EXP, Ken Jocelyn, one of the biggest things that he preaches is planning your day the night before. Mm-hmm. Don't get up in the morning. Never get up in the morning not knowing what you're going to do that day. Yeah. And I do really well at that. I will admit there's some days I have a calendar, so I have an idea, but I have another calendar where I like to get very specific, that I write it down. I would say 5 out of the 7, 4 out of the 5 days during the week, I'm very good about writing it down the night before. I need to get better at it, so I know where some of my weaknesses are. But have you ever heard of the Pomodoro effect?
No.
So Rob Dial, he has Mindset Mentor podcast. I absolutely love listening to him. He is amazing. He really is. But one of the things that he talks about is called the Pomodoro effect or technique. And I have not implemented it. I've tried it a couple of times, but it is tough. And actually, I think it's the Chinese who actually do this on a very regular basis. And it's a way to get more done in less amount of time. So what it is, you have 25 minutes on of 100% dedicated focus, phone away, phone on do not disturb. And then you have a 5-minute break, like literally a break, not scrolling social media, but you go out, go for a walk, do something. And then you come back and you do 25 minutes of 100% focus. So you don't want to do like this whole long hour because an hour long of dedicated focus is honestly probably too much. Like you're going to get distracted. Your mind's going to go somewhere else. So if you dedicate 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off, 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. And then obviously if you need to take a longer break after that, but his recommendation is 25, 5, 25, 5, 25, and then your break. But yeah, it's that 5 minute break is not jumping on the phone, looking at your emails. Like it is, hey, let me get out, get some fresh air, get some light, and just maybe going on a quick walk, then coming back in and getting back to it. And I've done it a couple times, and it's just training yourself. It's kind of like meditating or those quiet times. You just have to train yourself to do that, because our attention span anymore is so short that we just want to go here, especially as a mompreneur. Oh, kids activities. So it's just like, nope, bring it back in, bring it back in. This is what I'm focusing on. So that's a technique that can definitely help move the needle in a forward direction. Because I always use the example that, look at Elon Musk. Multi-billionaire, if not trillionaire, I'm not even sure. But he obviously has the exact same amount of time as you and I do in a day, but gets a whole lot more done. So why? Obviously leveraging, obviously delegating, but I think I would imagine he's very strategic. Actually, prime example, I don't mean to keep rambling on, but Rob Dyrdek. Have you ever studied him? Do you know who that is?
Yeah, I know who that is, but I've never studied
ridiculousness. Okay, so study him. He's very interesting because he has a contract where he dedicates, or he is committed to doing 336 episodes of ridiculousness. I think over 5 years, it's like a $1 billion contract, something along those lines. He gets 336 episodes done in 4% of his time. Like, wrap your head, you know what I mean? Like, I get goosebumps thinking about it. And I listened to a podcast about this, and he used to record, say, 2 episodes a day. Well, then he's like, okay, if I don't take these breaks, I can get in another episode. So then he started doing that. Then he's like, okay, I'm not going to take lunch, so that'll get me a 4th episode. And then he's like, okay, I'm not going to change between this episode and this episode, so now I can squeeze another episode in. So he's doing like 5, 6 episodes a day. He strategically plans his time, I swear, down by the second. It is very impressive. And I just heard somebody talking about him that when he met Rob 8 years ago, they were both worth $15 million. Fast forward to today, Rob is worth about $400 million, while this other gentleman was still around that $15 million. He's like, clearly, Rob's got systems and techniques and time down to a T. So very interesting.
That is, yeah. That's, I don't know.
He's got a podcast, and I've listened to quite a few of them, but it's very interesting on how strategic he is with his time. But yeah, can you imagine recording 336 episodes in 4% of your time?
No.
That doesn't sound...
It's great, because then he has time to do everything else that he wants to do.
Yeah. Over 6 months of the year, he is spending with his family and his kids, like quality, dedicated time. And he's worth $400 million. You think most people are going to think somebody who's worth $400 million is running ragged. Like they are just grinding it out day in and day out. Well, you strategically plan your day, you can get there too. You know, they always say if you fail to plan, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Yes. And it's so true, but it takes that commitment. And I would say in the fitness industry, planning your meals is a crucial part of your success.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You know, because like most people, they're like, oh, what are we going to have tonight? Okay, well, you waste more time thinking about what you're going to have every single day than if you just planned it out on Sunday and got it all done and taken care of. Would you agree?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And I think too, like most people, when that happens, that's when they go through the drive-through, or that's when they order, the pickup or delivery. It's like they're being lazy. And then when it's time to eat, they're like, oh, this is why I can't stay consistent with anything, because they're not planning. Yeah.
And it costs you a lot more money. It costs so much more money to go. Can you imagine going out to eat with your 2 kids and your husband? Even if it's a quick drive-through, you're looking at $35, $40. You do that twice a week, and that adds up substantially. Mm-hmm. And that's just due to lack of planning. And I'm guilty too. I'm not going to say I'm perfect. I'm getting better. We all got things that we need to work on. Right. Okay, so then setting boundaries. Tell me a little bit about setting boundaries and the power of who you surround yourself with.
Yeah. So with boundaries with me, I would say, before I talk about my boundaries, I think that a lot of people hear the word boundaries and they think like, these are the rules that I set for my life, and let me list them all out here. And here you go. Here's a copy. So you know not to step on my boundaries. And it's actually really funny. Side note, my mother, who's in her upper 50s, and she, the other day, me having my own podcast for 2 years, she just started listening to it just now. And she's been learning about boundaries and setting boundaries with people when it comes to her mother who wants her to help take care of her and her adult children and all of these people. And it's so funny because I'm like, boundaries is something I've been setting with you and you don't even know it for the last few years. And here she's trying to teach me about boundaries. It's just really cute. But for anyone listening, I think that when you hear the word boundaries, you instantly think, okay, these are the rules that I live by. And you have to determine what your life can take and what it cannot in order to set those boundaries. And yours are going to be different from everyone else's. An example would be like your boundary with how you spend your free time. Like I have friends that they'll spend their free time at a brewery all weekend and a winery and places like that. And for me, if I spent all of my time going to places like that, I would not be as productive as I have been. I wouldn't have the businesses that I have, and it wouldn't set me up for success. And so like you have to set boundaries around the environment that you put yourself in, the people that you surround yourself with, and how much time you spend with them. If you have somebody that you work with and they drain you of your energy, they're a vampire, energy vampire, you're not going to hang out with
energy butts. Did you get that?
Yeah. You are not going to hang out with that person outside of work. Okay. You're going to leave that relationship there, even though they might invite you every single weekend to their family cookout, or they might invite you to the bowling alley to go hang out. You're not going to say yes because they are draining you of something that you're not looking forward to doing. And it's not going to make you show up as that best person. So that's another example. And then a third example of like setting a boundary is boundaries of things that you will and will not tolerate in your life. So for example, if you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, and you have people that are working for you and they keep showing up late, or they keep, saying the wrong things at a meeting, and you've already talked to them once about it, but it keeps happening. Set the standard, set that boundary. I think boundaries and standards sometimes go hand in hand, and don't keep that person around, don't keep letting them come in. And so I think so many times we just let people walk all over us, and we don't set the standard for our life and set those boundaries so that we can live our happiest life every day.
Mm-hmm. And going back to that, when you're an entrepreneur and a business owner, I think you also need to share your vision on what your vision is for the business, because people can't see what you see. And unless you're relaying that information, like, hey, here's my expectations, these are my standards, but this is the vision for my business as well. So if you're not in, then you got to get out. Like you said, the energy bus, the energy vampire. I love this book. I'm actually in the process of reading it now, and it's absolutely amazing. But you have to be okay with letting those people go. If they can't share the same vision, because we want to be accepted by everybody, but it's okay.
Yeah. And people, to your point, people don't know what they don't know. So you have to communicate to the people that you are spending your time with, like, hey, these are some boundaries that I'm really working on setting right now, or these are some boundaries I want to test out. I'll give you an example. I had a guy he's a well-known motivational speaker, and I won't mention his name, but he was on my podcast about 6 months ago. And leading up to the podcast, I had prepared these questions for him, and I had sent them over. And I also had a intake form that I needed him to fill out with like his bio and his picture, and to prepare for the podcast. And I sent it way in advance, like 6 weeks in advance. And a few weeks in, still hadn't gotten anything. I sent a follow-up email like, hey, just waiting on your questions. And then still nothing. 2 days before, still nothing. The night before, I get everything that I needed, which was fine. I still had time to insert everything and get ready. But the next day, we're chatting, and he says, yeah, I have really good boundaries when it comes to like my work-life balance. And he said, I only check emails at this time. And if I have an event coming up and it only requires me to prepare for less than 30 minutes, I don't deal with it until the day before. And he was telling me all of these boundaries that he had set for himself on a professional level because he does have so many people that email him every single day. He has people that call. I mean, he has 2 phones. And he was like, if I don't set these boundaries and I'm not really clear, then it will just completely, rule his day. And after that conversation with him, I was like, wow, I respect that, because I still, to this day, here I am talking about boundaries, am the kind of person who I'll check my email all day long and I'll respond to you no matter what time it is. And there have been times where I've tried to practice like, okay, I'm not going to check it after 6, or I'm going to check it for 20 minutes after bedtime, and then I'm not going to check it again until tomorrow. And it's so hard to stick with that. Same goes with social media. We'll just get on real quick and scroll for a few minutes, and then it's 10 minutes later, you're like, what am I doing? And if you set those boundaries with yourself, and it's something that it's like a muscle, you have to keep flexing it, and it's going to get stronger and it's going to get easier. But until you like start that practice, you'll never have any boundaries if you don't just start.
Yeah. And if that works for him, great. But I'm the kind of person that I need to get it done. And I'd rather spend that 30 minutes, get it done out of the way. So then tonight, when it comes to it, I don't have to worry about it last minute. That's
exactly how I am. I would rather just tackle things as they come, and then it's out of my mind. Mm-hmm. Whereas I know some people like him, I guess he just has so much going on that I have to deal with these other things first, and I'll deal with that later. But yeah, I'm very much like you.
Yeah, just get it done, get it out of the way. And then I feel like I have more free time, and I have a lot more mental freedom. And that's what's more important, is the mental freedom up here. Right. If I keep building that up, I forget stuff. So I'm more of like, okay, if I can just knock this out real quick, literally right before we started the podcast, I'm like, okay, I have 3 more minutes. Let me finish writing this out. And I was writing notes and stuff like that. So usually I'm on a little bit faster. I'm like, I need to get this knocked out. I'm going to forget. I got to get it done. Yep. So, but yeah, I'm more of that person, but I think he obviously has a system that works for him, and you just got to find what works for you. Everybody's going to be different. You have to find what works for you. So tell me a little bit about your brick and mortar. You have a new course that's going to be coming out, Brick and Mortar Blueprint. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I am launching a course that is going to be geared for anybody who wants to open a brick and mortar business. I've, opened 3 brick and mortar businesses, working on another one right now. And it is really something that I love to help other people with. And I think that I live in a small town. And so women-owned businesses, small businesses are like just what everybody is talking about right now where I live. I don't live in a big city. It's just very different. And I just think that our future lies in small business owners, and these huge companies and stuff. They've taken over the retail space. And I get that people are going to be using Amazon Prime till we die. Like, it's only going to get better. However, these restaurants that you love to go to, the boutiques that you love to shop at, the nail salons that you frequent, those are all small businesses. And if we can come together and make those better, it's going to help the place that we live. It's going to help our economy where we live. And so I very much love to help other people with that. And so this course is going to be like a jump start if you are interested in owning your own brick and mortar, starting your own, or purchasing one. It's going to be that blueprint for this is what you need to do from step 1 to opening your doors, and even when it comes to marketing.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And that's for all business owners, right? That's not just women entrepreneurs. That's for everybody.
Correct. Yeah, it's for all business owners. And I'm also hopefully here soon launching like a little small women's group for just female brick and mortar business owners. Yes.
I love that, because I think so many people want to get into the entrepreneurship realm, but they don't know where to start. And it is very confusing, because every business is going to be a little bit different. But ultimately, if you're opening up a brick and mortar, you're going to have the same basic things that you need to do to get that up and going and running smoothly. Because like I told you earlier, before we got on the episode or on the podcast, is that I think like a CPA is so crucial to a successful business. But I think it's also one of the very things that most entrepreneurs avoid, because it is an expense. There is a pretty big expense to it. But what I have seen, because I've had several CPAs, because I just feel like they weren't aligned with me. Not that there's anything wrong with them. It just wasn't what I was looking for my business. And now I have found the perfect one. He's definitely more expensive than I have paid anybody else. I'm sure most people would probably fall over and be like, you pay what? But I know the value he has brought to my business. I know the amount of money he has saved me in my business long term. But yeah, I don't know if that's something that you talk about in your brick and mortar blueprint, but I have found that having the right CPA on your team, because it takes a village. It takes a village to raise a family. It takes a village to run a business. And you need to be able to delegate certain parts of your business to other professionals because they can do it better. We can do it all. Master of none, jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah. And to your point, like when I first started out, I tried to do everything myself when it came to accounting and taxes. And the first year in business, I'll never forget, I got like a $25,000 bill from the IRS for quarterly tax payments that we forgot to make. And they were sitting in my file cabinet, these like stubs that the CPA had put together for me, but I just didn't understand that I had to send them in every quarter and what I needed to pay. And he's like, yeah, I did this for you. And I had hired the CPA, but still I didn't understand it. And so I think too, yes, you need to hire somebody to help you, but you also need to take the time to understand it to the best of your ability, because there is going to come a time where, what if something happens and you need to step out for a little while and you have someone else coming in? You're going to have to be able to train them. You're going to have to be able to help them run the business, or any situation like that. You need to be in the know as much as you can. That doesn't mean that you have to be up to date with all of the, tax laws and regulations, but you need to know your numbers, as you mentioned earlier, and you need to understand what they're even doing for you in the first place.
Yeah. And that's probably one of the most important things. But yeah, like you said, you can hire the right CPA, but you also need to be able to ask the questions, because I'm a question freak. Like when I meet with my CPA, you tell me something, I'm going to ask questions until you can break it down Barney style for me to understand it. Where I laugh because when my husband and I are sitting with our CPA, I just watch my husband. He's like, okay. And so when we leave, I'm like, did you actually understand that? He's like, no, not a thing. I'm like, ask questions. And I laugh because I know he has no idea. So then I'm like, okay, I'm going to ask the question, because even if I know people are in the room and even if I understand things, I'm okay asking the question because I know other people don't want to, I guess, look dumb. So I'm okay looking dumb. I will ask those stupid questions because I always tell people, I need you to break it down Barney style. That's just always been the thing that I've said. I need you to dumb it down to a level where somebody who has no idea about taxes can understand, or as if you were talking to my 9-year-old daughter. You know what I mean? Because doctors do the same thing. They get into the
jargon and
what does that mean? And most people just nod along because they don't want to ask the stupid questions. I'll ask the stupid questions. I have no problem doing that because I want to understand it. I need to understand it.
Right. Yep.
Okay. Well, MK, I have one last question for you. If you could give anyone one piece of advice, or somebody who's starting out in business, what is one piece of advice that you would give them? Or what is one piece of advice you would give your younger self starting out?
One piece of advice that I would give my younger self is stop focusing on the when and focus on the now. So a lot of times with business owners, or it doesn't matter if you're a business owner or not, like we're always focused on when we get this, when we are at this point, when we make this amount of money, when my kids are older, then I will start doing this. Then I will be happy. Then I will feel this way. And you can do that all day long, and you could set these huge lofty goals for yourself. But until you learn how to just love where you're at right now and remember that it's not about the goal, it's about the journey, that until you can do that, you will not experience pure happiness in life. Like you have to wake up every day loving how you're spending your time, not loving on what you're working on to get to that goal. It can't be about that, because I have too many times reached that goal or gotten really close to it and realized, I don't know if I want this to be the goal anymore. Is this it? And when you do that, then you look back at all that time you spent and you tell yourself like, I just wasted this. I just wasted those years or those days. And so you have to just love where you're at right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Incremental, not monumental. And it is a journey, or learn to enjoy the journey, or it's a journey, not a destination. I think people are so focused on the destination versus the journey. And I heard something the other day, because going back to incremental, not monumental. Actually, this was yesterday. We were talking in our Real Moms community group. If you went out there and you told somebody, hey, I need you to make $10,000 extra this year, Most people would probably get a little bit anxious, like, how am I going to do this? But if you told somebody every single day, but you said, go out and make an extra $26, most people can handle that. Most people can handle it. It comes out to be like $26.40 adds up to an additional $10,000. So it's all in your mindset. Stop looking at the bigger picture. Focus on the now. What can you do right now? What can you enjoy right now? It's the incremental, not the monumental. So yeah, $26 extra a day sounds pretty easy. $10,000 a year might seem a little overwhelming. So just a mindset thing. So MK, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be here. I loved meeting you back in March or April, whenever it was. I think you have an amazing success going on in your life. And I enjoy watching everything that you do on social media too.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Yes, thank you so much. You have a wonderful day.
Thanks, you too.
And that wraps up another inspiring episode of the Real Moms Podcast. A huge thank you to our incredible guests for sharing their story and insights today. If you found value in today's conversation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And hey, sharing is caring, right? Share this podcast with your fellow mompreneurs, friends, and anyone who you feel could use a dose of inspiration. Share it on your social media as well. But most importantly, if you found this episode helpful, please leave me a 5-star review. This helps get our information out to those who have never heard or seen us before. Are you feeling inspired and you're sure that you could add some value to the podcast? Shoot me a message and let's talk. We love hearing from you. So connect with us on social media. Tag me at Shae J Spitz. That's ShaeJSpitz. And share your thoughts and takeaways, or even suggest topics you'd like to have us explore more in the future episodes. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. Your resilience is your strength, and your pursuit of abundant living is truly remarkable. As always, keep thriving, keep growing, and keep embracing the beautiful chaos of being a mompreneur. Until next time, take care, stay real, and keep living abundantly.